Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Haley Wells, the Director of Communications and PR at the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce. And we will have time for questions at the end, so if you'll submit those via the chat screen, that would be great. And if you have a specific question for one of our guests, please identify in the chat who you would like us to address the question to. And if you wouldn't mind keeping yourself muted and your video off during the duration of the webinar, it'll help with bandwidth and hopefully it won't be jiggity throughout. So I'd really appreciate that. And with that being said, please help me welcome our first guest, Donya Butler. She is a partner at DesignEnvy. Good morning, Donya. Please tell us about yourself in DesignEnvy.
Good morning. Thank you. I just want to start off by saying thank you to Haley and Eddie and everyone at the Chamber for including me, and also for everything that you guys are doing. You're just so wonderful and you're such good people. So thank you. My name is Donya Butler. My company is DesignEnvy, and I started this business almost 18 years ago with John Raspberry. DesignEnvy is so much more than design. We also do video production, social media management, Google advertising strategies, print design, customer journey, I mean, everything and in between. Our client list is a range of businesses, everything from like a funeral home to a restaurant, a plumbing company, a well company, education, healthcare, a biotech company, and a winery, just to name a few. We work with these clients on a retainer basis or a project basis. I wear several hats, as the owner, but my main role is to work with clients to discover and develop their brand. I help create messaging and ideas that support that brand. And then I work with clients, designers, strategists, and vendors to help execute their brand story.
Awesome, thank you. And now we have Pam Sharpe. And Pam, if you want to tell us about yourself and the Price Group, go ahead and take the floor.
All righty. Well, good morning. It's a privilege to be with you all today. I echo Donya's sentiments about the Chamber. I'm a board of director member, and it is such a fulfilling role that I've been able to play in the Lubbock community, and working with small businesses is my passion. I have been with the Price Group as of next Thursday, 30 years. And I know many of you out there aren't even that old. So just remember, I started when I was about 12 years old. But we are a full service advertising agency. We have 11 amazing employees who are just passionate about our clients. We have a broad list of clients as well, but what we try to do that's different from what we have done in the past, and our company's about 50 years old, but we try to make things where it's strategically based for our clients, to give them a mission, a vision, a value of how their advertising is executed. So we take branding very, very seriously. And then we take it the full gamut. So I'm excited to be able to talk to you about that particular topic today, and hopefully help you going forward.
Thank you, Pam. And Pam also serves on our board of directors, so we appreciate all that she does with the Chamber as well. Now I want to introduce you to Ryker Taylor. So Ryker, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself and WunderTre.
Absolutely. Yeah, first I'll echo what Pam and Donya said too as well. Just thanks for the opportunity to do this. Always love to try to give back and add value to the business community. So any opportunity that I get asked to do, I try to do that. So thank you for the opportunity. But yeah, like they said, my name is Ryker Taylor. I am the founder and CEO of WunderTre. We are an inbound marketing and branding agency. We just celebrated our 4th birthday last Wednesday. So started off just me, sold my Xbox and my TV to pay for my first couple of bills I needed to do, and then I've grown it from there. And now over the years we've picked up some really talented people, and now we have 5 full-time people and a couple of part-timers that help us out. So that's a little bit about what we do. We work with clients in inbound marketing, like I said. So that's everything from creating blog posts, social media campaigns. We build websites, design logos, things of that nature. We pretty much run the gamut of all different industries. There's not a lot of people will say no to from an industry standpoint.
Thank you, Ryker. We're excited to have you and all of our panelists here with us this morning. Now I'm going to actually turn the floor over to Donya. She's going to define what a brand is and why it is so important, especially in our current business climate. So Donna, if you want to go ahead and take over.
Okay. Well, I think a good place to start is differentiating branding, marketing, and advertising. I think a lot of times those get lumped in together and they think, oh, well, that's branding and marketing, or that's marketing and advertising, but they're pretty distinct. Branding is so much more than your logo. I mean, of course, it's an important component. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's considered your identity, and it's a visual way to convey your story and your brand. But just remember that the logo is what people see and the brand is what people feel. Marketing explains what your product is and why people should use it. So it's a matter of getting your message out, telling that story, having other consumers use it. Now, advertising is the repetition of your message and the media channels you will use to communicate that message. So let's say that branding is more of a result. Look at it that way. Branding is your reputation. So to a lot of people, there's this gut feeling when they first interact with your brand. And of course, you want that to be a positive experience for them. It's how they feel about your product, your service, or your company. So if you think about every facet of your brand, I mean, that is very important. It's encompassing of people answer the phone, what people wear, how it smells when you walk into the space. Chick-fil-A is one of the first ones that come to mind. They're consistent. Anytime you say thank you, they say it's my pleasure. And so a lot of people want to be associated with that because they feel very welcome. They feel that it's a clean space and they feel like they know what to expect. And they also do a lot of good for the community. That's something that's always important. So when you're thinking about your brand, when you're defining your brand, you need to think about the heart of the why of what you do. So for instance, you may sell shoes and you say, well, I have a shoe store. Why do you have a shoe store? Most people have a story behind why they do what they do. I mean, it's their purpose, right? There's that one thing that makes them tick. And they may sell shoes because when they were young, they couldn't afford nice shoes. And so now they're bringing an affordable, great shoe wear for people. So that's what we really try to dig into, is what is the heart of this? The heart is your why, that's your foundation. And from there, you can begin to do other things. You can begin to execute marketing strategies and advertising strategies based on your story. And what you should do is you should find your unique selling point. I mean, there are several shoe stores in town, but what makes you different? And another compelling thing is to ask people to tell your story for you, because typically that's more powerful than you trying to tell it yourself. So your brand is an emotional connection. Like I said, it's your purpose and it's your differentiator, but it's what keeps people coming back. So a lot of that is the connection, again, how people feel, how they feel when they leave. And when you identify your audience, you need to determine who they are and how you can help them. Just as I'm bringing affordable shoes to people of all economic backgrounds. Maybe your focus is children, but you can also do that. And when you do that, you become a trusted voice in your field. People know that you care. You're not there to just sell a shoe and then move on. You want to build a relationship with them because you genuinely care about those specific things that impact their lives. So I would say that branding in a nutshell can be summed up by that quote by Maya Angelou, which is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And then I wonder if Pam and Ryker have anything to add to that. I know that they have a love for branding too.
Well, Donya, you've hit the nail on the head, and really it gives me a great segue into this next phase, and that's how the heck do you go about doing this? And I'm really proud of what we have done at the Price Group is something that we call brand storming. And since we're all creative people, we needed to come up with a way to get our clients thinking about who they are, what they want to accomplish. And so what I'm going to do is kind of take you through some steps. At the end of all of this, I will provide an outline that you can email me if you would like to do that, just so you can kind of go through some of these steps to accomplish exactly what Donya was talking about. So, to begin with, it's so important that your businesses, if you're not active right now, if you're at home, take your staff through this evaluation today, the next couple of days, because it's so important that you figure out who you are, where you're going, and what you want to accomplish. And now's the perfect time. We can't change what's happened. We can only build on things that we've learned from this. So hopefully today, between the three of us, we can get you guys going in the right direction, regardless of whether you're a business. I know that many of my sales representatives that I deal with in the media are in this meeting. It's so important for you guys too. This is good for everybody. So what I'm going to do is kind of slowly, but not real in depth, kind of take you through what you need to do. So first of all, you need to start with a brand equity evaluation. And what that is, and Donya has alluded to some of this stuff, sit down and talk about your reputation. Your ex-business, where am I perceived right now internally, and how am I perceived externally in credibility? And that's really where reputation comes from. Second of all, talk about your awareness. Do people know we exist? It's if you're not out there somewhere, people don't. And so if you need to evaluate that aspect of it. Do you have momentum before all this? And let's just preface this: where were we before COVID, and how can we get back there as quickly as possible after this crisis? What is your vision as an owner, as an employee? You're all vested in where you work and what you're doing. So take a look at your vision. And like I said, do this with key people within your organization. It's so important to get their input. Second of all, you need to evaluate your competition. Where do you stand? So who and what is your competition? Right now, it's an outbreak of a disease and you can't work. Okay, that's one component, but there's others that you will face going forward. Is there anything that is a serious threat in a normal situation? Do you have any regional or national competition? Who are they? What advantage do they have over you? That's so important to know where you are in that particular realm. And then this one, we're a little humble in Lubbock, Texas. And we know that well. It's part of our sweet trait. But what are your strengths? Identify what you do well. What advantages do you have as your business opposed to another? What do you see? What do other people see as your strengths? And this is where it's so cool when you have employees who feel comfortable and can tell you without any inhibitions and whatever, how they feel about this company that they're working for. And then what do you do better than the competition? Weaknesses. Okay, yeah, we can identify those real easy, but be serious in this. And this is where COVID has really impacted us. What obstacles do you face? I mean, we arrived at this branding idea because businesses cratered within a 3-week period. how did that happen? So we need to be able to face any of these obstacles going forward, have a plan. Hopefully we won't, but the truth is it might happen again. So what obstacles, what challenges, and what do you do to need to improve on? Then what you're going to do is you're going to prioritize these facts, and then you're going to make a big list. Get you a big notepad out and just make notes after notes after notes. You're going to whittle them down, and you're going to arrive at what are your unique and distinctive claims of who and what you are. And this is what's going to lead you to what your brand is. And a brand, in essence, it will differentiate your organization. It provides value to your members, your staff, your resources. It helps create loyalty, and it improves the culture of your organization. And I think that you see in the messaging that has been out there, the messaging has been incredible, especially on the local level, because people are taking what they do, but they're putting it in a softer, when things get better, you see this a lot, when things get better, we're here for you. So, the message is to continue to do that, but work through this process. Like I said, I will provide an outline for you. Just email me. I also want to make available an initiative that the Price Group started just a few months before all of this happened. We call it Project Link, and Link is our golden retriever mascot. But what we're trying to do is help small businesses. So we have an application process where for a 3-month period, we provide a service that you need, whether it's a new logo, a website, but this is our way of giving back and helping small businesses to continue not to be obscure, to continue to grow. So again, if you're interested in that, we can provide that application. But I just, my passion is helping small businesses. I am a small business owner, and we have struggled as well. So lessons learned on all parts. I hope I didn't go through this so quickly that you couldn't absorb it. But again, it's easier if you can see it and work through it. But I encourage every single person that's in attendance today to go through this entire process and figure out who you are. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ryker.
Awesome. I think that's great. Yeah, so for my section, I'm going to talk about fighting brand obscurity, just digital obscurity in a holistic fashion. So, I think a lot of businesses, they struggle with this outside of just COVID times too, right? Like this is something that's applicable. Everything that everyone's talking about here today is things that was relevant before COVID, during COVID, and it's going to be relevant after the fact too. So keep that in mind, as we move forward. But yeah, a lot of businesses struggle, and oftentimes it's not because they have like a poor product or service. Maybe you do, maybe you need to fix that, but most people don't have a poor product or service. That's not why people aren't using you. It's because they're not familiar with who you are. People don't use who they don't trust, who they don't know. And so obscurity is the biggest enemy of small business today. Just COVID time, non-COVID time, it doesn't matter. And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, is like, how do you fight back against that obscurity? Like, how do you become known and relevant? How do you become a business that whenever they think of whatever service you provide or whatever product you provide, they think of you before they think of anyone else. And that's really, like I said, that's a big challenge that people face. And so some of the ways that you can tangibly combat that, and this is what we're going to go into, is like tactics. First off, a video. I think, a lot of people hear that often. It's like video content is king, or content is king. And yeah, a big thing that I do and that we do around WunderTre is just try to make videos. Right now, everyone is at their house on social media. So you have as a business owner, you have the opportunity to get a lot of face time during this time. And I encourage you to capitalize on that. Take it from the standpoint of empathy, and obviously you kind of got to navigate the waters, and you can't be super salesman-y or anything like that right now. You got to give a lot of value and just be empathetic to the situation, but you can still make videos that stay top of mind. You know, you don't have to, just because you might sell product X doesn't mean you have to make a video always talking about product X. You can be just making a video talking about, you know, a client success story or customer success story, or just some, you know, the way that you are leading your team during this time. People are searching for answers. So making videos that are off topic to what your business does, but still in the realm of just giving value, that's a way to fight obscurity. And that's something that personally I'm doing. And to be honest with you, that's kind of what, you know, this setting is right now. Like, yes, I want to provide value, but I'm also fighting our own obscurity in this moment. Like, I'm wearing our logo and all that kind of stuff. You know, more people will know who we are at the end of this because of that. And I think that same goes for the other two panelists too. People, if you didn't know Donya or Pam coming to this, you're going to at the end of it, you know? So yes, we can provide value to this time, but we can also try to search for opportunities to get face time. So video is a great way to do that. Podcasting. I host a podcast. I've been on a few podcast episodes. It's a fun thing to do. Whereas a video, people can't really watch those in their car. People listen to podcasts all the time. So that's a way to like get in front of people on their drive time. A lot of people, West Texas, small towns, they commute a lot. So I actually have people tell me often like, hey man, I was listening to your podcast on my drive out to the farm the other day, or whatever the case may be. So like, that's something, especially just geographically in our area, it's not to sleep on, is like creating a podcast, because there's people that will listen to that maybe over the radio or Spotify or something, like music wise, they'll listen to that on their long commutes in the area. So that's a good way to fight that obscurity. Getting your team involved. So that's one thing that we're pretty big on at WunderTre, is just as much as I'm out there pounding out content on social media, I encourage my team to do it as well. Like, take pictures of what you're working on, put it on your social media stories like Instagram or Facebook. Just let people know that we're active and we're doing things, or that, hey, we're still here. You know, just whatever we can do to just stay in front of people. At the end of the day, it's all about awareness. And so what we're talking about here are tactics. You still got to go out there and do those things, but at the heart behind it is, it's all just about finding that obscurity and getting awareness. So video, podcasting, social media, just posting about things. Social media stories are huge right now. I could go into a lot of different statistics on that, but if you don't have an Instagram account or anything like that, highly recommend you might get one for your business. That's a good tangible thing to be on right now. A lot of people are on Instagram, and specifically stories. Yeah, blogs. Again, people are online right now, so people are reading blogs. I found myself reading more blogs than I've always been a blog reader, but I've been reading more of them just lately because I have the time to, or because I'm in front of my computer a lot more. So that's another thing. But yeah, just these different social media channels that you have at your fingertips. Just get creative with how you go about doing it. Like I said, it's not all about pushing your product or your service. There's ways to just give value, and simply you, like me, I post a lot just on my personal channels, like not WunderTre related, but you know, by doing that, I'm staying top of mind to the people around me, and I'll occasionally link it back to my business and be like, oh, by the way, we've got this, you know, new thing going on over here. Be sure to check it out. Like, you don't just have to go live on your business's Facebook page all the time. You can share personal stuff. You can leverage your personal social media as well to kind of elevate and keep your brand top of mind. So I'd love to get Donya and Pam's feedback on this, because I can ramble on for forever. But if y'all got some tangible things I want to throw in there to help fight obscurity, I'd love to hear those too.
Ryker, that's just an excellent example of how, and I know one of the questions, I might be jumping ahead, was, you know, I'm not an essential business, but how am I supposed to communicate when my doors are closed? Mm-hmm. I think you've just given them the perfect answer to that. Obscurity, don't go away. I mean, you just cannot drop out of sight. And I think that the social media aspect of it is so easy. It's affordable, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's where a lot of people get hung up, is on the fact that, well, it costs a lot of money to advertise. Well, to do it right, it's across the board
Mhm.
when it comes to value and what you choose. But at this point in time, I think social media and all of this is so important.
Yeah, and it's worth noting too, everything that I just kind of mentioned that's pretty much free. Like you don't have to pay to put your podcast on anything. You can use free tools, or social media. Obviously, just the cost of selling your data to Facebook, free. But yeah. So like most things are free. So like you're not having to go out of your way right now. And like if you want to boost the posts on Facebook or things like that, obviously if you have the budget, then I recommend you do try to spend a little bit of money. That's one thing that we've kind of been doing, and I've been encouraging clients to do, is like, hey, right now, do go ahead and spend. If you've got the room in your budget, let's go ahead and spend a little bit more on ads, just because I feel like in this current time, it's disproportionate. More people are scaling back on ads budget. So if you scale up, it's just going to be that much more effective. So you can do this stuff without having to spend money, but if you do spend money, it's just going to sweeten the deal even more so.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, y'all just shared so much information in such a quick period of time. I'm sure there will be lots of questions. I love how Donya touched on that a brand really is an experience, and then the tips that Pam shared on how to work through your brand to figure that out. So I love the worksheet idea. And then Ryker, just all the information you shared on fighting obscurity, and the fact that really we have a lot of those tools that we need literally at our fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like if y'all would share just a little bit examples or two about a brand that in your opinion has really stood out during this pandemic. And this could be a national brand, this could be a local company, just really maybe how they've communicated with their customers really well, how they've evolved maybe with the recent market or altered their business model due to that. So Donya, if you want to kind of give people a few examples first, and then we'll go to Pam and Ryker.
My first example is the one that's closest to my heart, is Picasso's Mexican restaurant here in town. They have always been a pay it forward business. From the day one we sat down to meet with them, they said, this is not our money. This is all going to the Lord and back to our employees. And they have genuinely walked that walk, and they have put all that money into the success of their employees, whether some form of education or maybe divorce care or something spiritual, and how to deal with specific situations. But if you look back at their mission, and that's what they've been pursuing, but in the midst of COVID, this opportunity, I guess I would say it's an opportunity for some people, is to further your mission. So they're expanding ways in that they never thought that they would. I know that Jeremy's very first thought was, how am I going to retain all of my employees all during this time? Secondly was, how can I get creative to bring in more business? So, I mean, like he's joked before, I never thought I would be selling a margarita out of a drive-through window, but this is working, and it's keeping their employees employed. And when I'm talking about their mission and giving back, now they're expanding it outside of the restaurant, and they're giving to healthcare workers, and they've committed to give to 5,000, and they're on their way. I mean, they're getting close, and they are working tirelessly to make this happen. And also they have encouraged other people to donate money to help them give even more. Now, from a marketing perspective, this and a PR perspective, they have done something that they didn't really do on purpose. They didn't do this for any other reason than this is our heart. We want to stay in business and we want to help people. But I think they've gained a lot of attention from people that may have never tried their restaurant before. They have never even considered it. And they're seeing all the good that they're doing. They're seeing that they're being good to their employees. They're seeing that they care about the community. And I think that is going to carry them into the future. They're not just thinking, what do we need to do immediately to get people in the door? They're thinking, how can we help people? And in the long term, they're actually going to gain more people that are attracted to their brand and put them probably at the top of their list because of all the good that they're doing. And I have more, but I don't want to take everyone's time.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. So, and I'm sure we'll have time for more. Pam, if you want to go ahead and give an example, and then we can probably get back to Donya as well after
Okay.
Pam and Ryker go.
That is that's an awesome story, and you know, restaurants are a brand that have really suffered, a category, I should say. But I have worked with a particular client in our agency in the entire 30 years that I've been there, and it's Orlando's Caprock Cafe. So impressed with a 50-year-old business that they didn't just close up the doors and give up. The minute that things were starting to go where it looked like they were going to close, we were getting emails in the early hours of the morning from Lloyd Turner, the CEO of the company. They did not want to just give up. And so they started brainstorming, and we met with them on several occasions via conference calls to try to figure out how can we keep them making money. This is, you know, a standard of restaurants here in Lubbock that they weren't going to give up. And so when the governor actually did shut down all restaurants, they saw an opportunity through Cisco Foods. Schools couldn't get food, restaurants couldn't get food, and so they decided they would purchase product, and hamburger was in great supply at that point in time, toilet paper, chicken. They were going to get in the grocery business, and they were going to set that up as part of their delivery and or curbside, and worked extremely hard to get that up and running and going, and figuring out ways, social media initially. Then we were able to respond with the messaging and get a TV commercial put together. And so a strong brand, y'all, is so important because it gives you the ability to have that inner strength to keep going because you believe in what you're doing, and they have continued to maintain making, you know, income, keeping their employees, and they didn't give up. And so I think it's such a neat story. Both of these restaurants took different approaches, but both decided to, you know, we're going to keep being relevant. And so that one, to me, all of our clients, that's kind of what we do is we help them put out a relevant message to the current situation for our financial institution and in our car dealer. And that's, you know, that's what an agency is able to provide, you know, a service of quick turnaround and proper messaging.
Absolutely. And those are great examples as well. Ryker, do you have any that come top of mind to you?
For sure, yeah. Another local favorite that's been around for a while, Daybreak Coffee Roasters. They've been around for since the early 90s, and they're a client of ours. They, you know, used to have the coffee shops back in the day, but now they mostly do wholesale or production, office coffee, things like that. But they still do have somewhat of a retail component as well. And we've recently launched their website. You can go online there and order. But what they're trying to do right now is, you know, people stuck in their homes. A lot of people like their coffee, so they're doing free delivery. Like they've kind of opened up this delivery arm and have started going out and just delivering cups of coffee, bags of coffee, whatever, to people's homes. So that's been one way that they've kind of adapted. And then their owner, Scott Gallarona, he's a member of another group called Fat Tire Cowboys. They're based out of the Slayton Airport. And they're also clients of ours, and they just a bunch of pilots that fly on the weekends. They all own other businesses, but they have this kind of group they formed called the Fat Tire Cowboys. And they sell merchandise with their logo on it, but they all have, and that's kind of how they monetize the whole thing, but they all have these planes and stuff. And so Scott is a member of Angel Flight. So they've all gotten together and they worked with some guys at tech in the engineering department and got their space masks manufactured. And they've been taking their planes, and they've gone from using planes and stuff, you know, for fun and show and kind of recreational flying, and they've, you know, really gone out and started using it to deliver face masks to local hospitals and things like that. I know they took some protective gear a few weeks back down to Monahans, I believe, to the hospital there. So just really cool to kind of see people taking their things they already have at their disposal and just kind of retuning it to do something else.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, you know, we shared about different service industries and how all three of them have done something completely different. So just because you're in one niche doesn't mean everyone has to do that same exact thing. And so you can still build your brand however you want to build it, even if your main industry is serving food and coffee and all of that. So I love those different examples and kind of how people are putting their own spin on things. And then also using what you have at your fingertips, like you just shared with the airplanes. So I think that's great. I do have a few questions that were pre-submitted, and I believe Pam already touched on one of them, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask those. However, if y'all have any questions that y'all would like to submit for any of our three panelists in the chat room, please do. If you have a specific one for someone, please say who it's for, and if not, whoever wants to take it can take it. So the first pre-submitted question was for Donya, and it's, is it okay to create marketing and communications or PR material unrelated to COVID-19, or does it seem too insensitive?
Well, you don't have to directly focus on COVID-19, but I think it's great to have an awareness in everything that you do, because we're all humans, we're all consumers, you know, we're all in the same boat, so to speak. And so if you can resonate with people on that level, I think you're going to have a much stronger connection than if you were to skirt over it. I mean, you really probably would want to focus on not so much the immediate, but the long term. And then that can help you build brand equity. So instead of focusing on clever branding, you could reassure people to invest in their future. I think that would lay a lot of groundwork. I think part of this is being authentic. You know, when we talk about breaking through obscurity and messaging and all the different platforms, I think the heart of all this is being authentic and staying true to who you are, and just remembering how you just think about how would you take in a message right now. You know, how would it resonate with you? You know, you want people to be sensitive to this time. You also want people to bring hope, you know, and offer joy and also solutions. You know, here's what we can offer right now to make your life a little bit brighter. I mean, you're sitting at home with your child trying to do their homework. They're just learning. How can we make that a little more fun experience for you? So I wouldn't completely divert from that, because I think, again, we're all human and this is the space that we're in. So I think it's smart to acknowledge it and then provide solutions and a very positive things for them to look to in the future.
Thank you. And Pam, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. So I know
Sure.
you kind of alluded to, you know, a non-essential business and how they can communicate with their doors closed. Do you know of any essential businesses top of mind that, or non-essential businesses, I'm sorry, top of mind that doors have been closed, but they're still, you know, communicating their brand very nicely, whether that be on a national or a local level? And if not, could you give an example of how maybe a non-essential business could do something?
Well, I think I can't think of one in particular, because to me, all businesses are essential. I think that if you're selling a product of any sort, whether it's an ad agency selling what we do from the three of us, to you know, our nail salons and our you know, our small things that you can do to keep your name from going away when things do return. And I think that that's the essence of what branding and advertising is all about, is not ever going away. Pulse yourself if you have to, but communicate through different methods of who you are, what you do, what you stand for. That's the relevance of a brand, whether you are considered essential or non-essential.
Thank you. And I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. I don't know if anyone's been seeing the Uber commercials that have been out there. Obviously, people aren't needing to take Ubers too often now, but they just created a really great commercial to let people know that they are all about people and families and not necessarily about driving you from place to place. So they're making sure that you understand what their real I guess, initiative is, and it's about people and taking care of them. And so they're asking you to stay home and remember Uber when you need them later. So I think that's a great example of how you can still get the word out there about what you do, even if you're not able to currently operate. So thank you for sharing. And then Ryker, I have a question for you as well. Our company just went through a rebranding initiative before COVID-19 hit. Should we continue it as is? Or should we relaunch that same campaign after COVID-19, or should we just completely wipe it clean and start something brand new? Kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'd say first, make sure that your brand is going to still be, like whatever that new launch was, is still going to be relevant. Are you still going to be able to offer that product or service? Is that still going to be a need in the community after the fact? If it is, then I would just stick with the work you've already done. You've already put in the time, energy, and effort to get that brand put together. Now it's just a matter of battling that obscurity. So just go out and start taking action. Start plastering that logo everywhere. Start, doing the social media campaigns. When people can return to your business or you can see people in person, do what Donya was talking about and just have a great experience, like it's more than just a logo at that point. But yeah, if you've already got it and it's still relevant, then stick to it and just scale it up. Just start doing a lot. If you were going to do a post a day on social media, do 3 or 4 posts a day on social media. It's like plaster that thing everywhere and, almost to the point of annoyance. I almost go to that place with a lot of businesses. I'm like, you might as well just like go as hard as you can. Content, it's top of mind all the time. That's just where I kind of naturally go. So my advice would be, if it's still relevant, just take what you've already done and really crank it out hardcore, triple down on it and just go for it. And then if it's not relevant, then kind of reevaluate, see what you can do to bring it into relevance and then turn it loose and go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. And I just have a quick question. I know you were talking about social media and things like that. Is there any social media analytics out there on the best time to post and kind of what you've seen to be the most relevant during the best time of day or days of the week or anything like that?
So that is a very specific question. That depends on who you are typically, because like some people's following is kind of specifically local. So obviously think about times of the day when people are going to be on social media. So your lunchtime, your after work time, that's on a usual, when life is normal cadence anyway. During COVID right now, you could probably pretty much post anything at any time of the day and people are going to see it throughout the day. So now there's really not necessarily a best time to post because it's like all the time because everyone's on there all the time. But typically think about when your audience is going to be waking up in the morning, checking their phone, going to lunch, checking their phone, off of work, checking their phone. That's kind of wherever you feel like your audience is at, where it be at local or national scale, even overseas. Like if it's overseas, then stagger your post 12 hours or whatever because they're that much ahead. So just kind of be very in tune with who your audience is. And then that same thing holds true for for the actual networks that you pick. So I've seen brands absolutely do amazing on Twitter, and I've seen brands not do well on Twitter. And it really comes down to who is their audience, like if they're 65 to 75-year-old females, probably not going to be on Twitter, that's just not the demographic there. So like you got to be kind of just thinking about where do you feel like your audience is going to be naturally, like really put yourself in your customer's shoe, in their shoes. And then be thinking about too, what is your product? And like, if you have like a service industry, if you're in the service industry or the product industry, think about how that would look on Instagram. Is that the best? Like because Instagram's all about pretty photos. Yeah, you can do videos and stuff there too, but it's at the end of the day, it's all about pretty photos. So is your product pretty? Is it going to be something that people really, that's going to look good in an Instagram grid? Well, then if it is, then really scale it up on Instagram. So I guess the roundabout way of answering your question is, what is your product? What is your service? Who are your people that you're trying to target? Let that dictate where you're trying to dump the most time and energy. And I will finish that off by saying, I think that you should be doing everything on all the platforms all the time. Like if you do something on Instagram, do it on Twitter, do it on Facebook. Might as well. Never know who's going to stumble across it. Can't hurt. But you can be strategic with where you put most of your focus. And so that's when you want to look to product, service, and who you're targeting.
Awesome. Thank you for those tips. And now I think I've seen several questions come through the chat room. So please keep submitting those, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Amy Marquez, and she's going to kind of go through those questions. Hopefully she's got several in there that she can ask. So Amy.
Got 3 questions. First question, when is the best time to post on social media to capture the most views?
I think Ryker just really answered that, didn't he?
Yeah, I can say it again if I need to, but yeah, just whatever your audience, whatever you think they're going to be on, just be really in their shoes. And that just goes for anything marketing wise. Always be in your customer's position. Where are they spending their time? What are their habits? You can do that research on the front end to kind of dictate some of this stuff.
And something that you can do that will help you learn what your audience is doing is look at your insights. So when you go into your Facebook account or your Instagram account, you can look at insights and see when people are looking. So if you want to experiment that, say I'm going to give myself 2 weeks or a month and I'm going to post at different times, you can actually backtrack and look at those analytics and see who's responding and when. And so that can help you form a pattern for moving forward.
Next question, are there any suggestions as to how local nonprofits can communicate effectively during COVID-19? We are considered an essential business working with foster children and families, and we are relying on social media and email campaigns heavily. Are there other ways to communicate that can fit a nonprofit budget?
Something that I think has been, since we're in this era of social media and texting, pick up the phone and put some warmth and give that human contact. I mean, if any of us that have been working from home and in this isolation crave, it's human contact, and we cannot forget to do that. I remember a commercial years ago, I think it was an airline, where the boss comes in and he starts throwing out airline tickets, and he says, we're going to go see our clients. We're going to go talk to them face to face. Well, if we can't talk face to face, pick up the phone.
That's awesome.
All right, next question. Is local advertising on TV or similar avenues still necessary, or has social media replaced them?
Okay, I'm going to grab that one real quick because my 40 years of my career have been in media planning and buying. It's so important to continue all forms of media, traditional, social. Lubbock is one of the strongest television and radio markets that I deal with in this region. Well-run stations, great programming, and yeah, I'm partial, but I do see that television viewing has increased enormously through all of this. The local connection, yes, you've got lots of binge watching on the Netflixes and so forth. I think people are discovering by binge watching a show that it was on one of the networks years ago, and they're like, oh, I wished I'd have watched it then. So yes, most definitely the stations, the media outlets will work with clients on budgeting and pricing. I know they've been so generous during this this time for our clients that they were able to stay on air. And so they're professionals, they'll guide, they'll direct. They've heard me preach for years about getting to know your client and getting to know what they need. So sorry about my little soapbox, but you've got to keep your message out there on all platforms. That's all I got. Donya, what do you think?
Well, I don't disagree. I mean, I think I would never say that social media replaced traditional, or online advertising replaces traditional. It's added to it. And I also think it's how you use it. One thing I like to tell clients is you can look at your TV advertising as more of your branding avenues. And then you can use your social media for, here's what's happening, here's what happened today, here's a special that we have going on. So it's a more in the moment kind of medium, where traditional is more, let's, continue the branding, remind people that we're out here. Because there are all kinds of people on social media. Never doubt that people aren't everywhere, because we're all consumers again, and we're all watching on all kinds of devices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Just triple down on what you're doing. It's not a both and thing. It's a yes and a yes and a yes. Do social media, do TV, heck, even do billboards and stuff if you can. Like, just be everywhere all the time, fighting the obscurity.
Absolutely.
I love that. And I also have a question. I know we brought up like Netflix and, Hulu and just the different areas that you can really binge watch. They have commercials in them now. So what would y'all's recommendation be when it comes to that? Should you branch out to those areas to advertise on? Should you just stick to local TV? Do a mix of both? Kind of what have y'all seen with that? And I guess that includes also music streaming, so Pandora and things like that as well.
Those are things that we absolutely have incorporated even before all of this within our media plans, to be in all of those platforms. And as they've advanced, I mean, it's only recently that you've really been able to get commercials placed into the streaming services, but it's part of the budget. We kind of break it out where we have a digital placement component, a traditional placement component, and a social media component. So you've got all levels of those bases covered, because again, I think Ryker said everybody's on their devices, and you have to be where they are. So it's a challenge, but it's something that we've been able to work through in making sure that the client has budget presence with their messaging in all areas.
Thank you. Do either you, Ryker, or Donya have something else to add to that?
I just know there are means now to where, if you're sitting on the couch watching a TV show, you can see a commercial and then see a digital ad on your phone, and then have it show up on social media. And again, I think frequency is king. That has never gone away. And I know that for some budgets, it's hard to be everywhere all the time. So there are strategies that come with that, that's a good, making the most of your money, making the most of your budget. But there are means to be everywhere all the time. And there's even opportunities to say, I want to target people on the second floor of this building with animals, so it can be very specific, and that might be some kind of scary to some people, but from a marketing standpoint, it can be a beautiful thing. So I would say, if I had some advice with that, I would say learn what is out there. Seek people you trust to give you some guidance on what is out there, because targeting is more specific now than ever.
Good point.
Yes, well, thank you all so much for, taking the time to be with us this morning. And I think that's all the questions we have. So if everyone would please, help me thank our panel. for being with us today. If you have questions for any of them specifically, they're on your screen with not only their email address, but their websites as well. So you can get in contact with them. And on behalf of the Lubbock Chamber and our board of directors and staff, we thank you for being with us today. Have a great rest of your week and be on the lookout for upcoming virtual events that we will continue having this week and in following weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for the opportunity.